right, please make sure that your name is at the top of that. If you'll collect that as a table, I'll come around and grab those. Thank you. As a table, collect those as a table, would you like? Thank you. All right, check in with your table partner. How are you feeling about? How are you feeling about the Pacific Theater? Ready?
Like, I don't really know much about like the but I know about like most of the neighbors. I don't know much about like them trying to figure out
Alright, do I have two people that would like to be justices? Two people that would like to be justices. Obviously, that weren't justices previously. So, Michael, you're currently a justice, bro. Does anybody else want to be a justice?
I mean, I would like to.
Were you, was it for the one that you were assigned, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were assigned as a justice, I would let you do it again. That make sense?
Oh, yeah, we were.
Okay, so you can do it again. Would you like to do it again? Roy. Okay, so that should get us 7. Who here wants to be Chief Justice?
Well,
They're
yeah.
sitting in the middle, though.
Connor has the outfit.
I have the outfit.
Connor has the outfit.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors tournament. Figure it
I
out.
second this. I got 4th in the.
What?
I got last in the house meeting like 2 weeks.
You're acting like it's a skill. Oh my God. Wait, rock, paper, scissors tournament with your neighbor. Ready? He's out. Okay, so you guys gonna step out. Stay in this order, though. Stay in this order, okay? Leave it out there. I'll talk. You're gonna start off with maybe It's really hard, I know.
Wait, can we rise when they leave?
When they come in, I'm gonna have you rise.
Hey, when I just hear the oh wait, that's
You guys hiding? Fast!
Yes.
Okay, so of course, you guys back there should be contemplating this as if you are a justice. And then after the trial, I'll have you guys deliberate, and we'll kind of render our own decision in here while the justices render their own decision out there. Okay, is everybody ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
Yay. It was fun. Or it was the little
All rise. Oh yay. The justices of the ICC now presiding.
At this time, I call prosecutor to present her oral arguments.
Yeah, go to the podium.
May it please the court. My name is Els Castaneda, and along with my partners Abdulrahman Alyafi and William Houlihan, we are here today representing Makino Maya Hirohito, the prosecution in this case. Your Honor, Makino Maya Hirohito is guilty of crimes against humanity and crimes against peace for two main reasons. First, he caused a lot more harm and death, and second, he inflicted cruel and unusual punishments. As you most likely know, this will deal with sensitive and graphic topics.
We have already talked about this previously. We're going to try to give as much as we can and of the truth without trying to traumatize any of our justices. For our first point, he caused a lot more harm to them. For example, in Hoshaka Akira's diary, of a Japanese army medical doctor in Jiangsu, he said, an order was received to kill the residents, and 80 of them, men, women, of all ages, were shot to death at dusk. I hope this will be the last time I ever witness such a scene. When the people were all gathered in one place.
Is there proof that Hirohito sent that order to Hoshaka?
There is no proof, but Hirohito is the supreme commander of the army, and if he would have been informed of such this, and would have condemned this.
Did he kill like everyone, or was it just like a small portion percentage-wise
Of what?
of like? Well, so like, was the order to like kill like a certain people, or was it just to kill like a group of people?
There were no orders.
Well, to clarify, I think what he is asking is, did the order directly come from Hirohito, or did Hirohito not make the order, but he still supported it?
He did not make the order, but Hirohito would have supported this because like he and the Japanese. Should I continue?
How do you know he would have supported it?
There was no proof.
If he did not support it, then there would not have been there would not have been a great invasion of China with millions of people dead.
It's been shown that Hirohito didn't actually have as much power as we think, because, and I know you haven't talked about this yet, but when he tried to surrender later on, his military advisors tried to kill him, and so that just kind of shows that he didn't have as much power as we think, so if he didn't consent to all these things, like, how is it?
Article 12 of the Japanese Constitution at the time said that the Emperor is supreme commander of the army and navy, which shows that he is in charge of all of this, which means that he was presiding over the deaths of hundreds of thousands, even millions of people. He would have, if he was not guilty, he would have condemned all of this and made an apology after the war. Yet we have no information of an apology.
Is it true that Hirohito was unaware of some military decisions, such as the invasion of Manchuria? I have a source that states that he was not aware of the invasion of Manchuria, and months later, when he finally did find out about it, he was furious.
No, he was informed about the invasion of Manchuria and the attack on Pearl Harbor.
I think if we keep asking questions like this, he'll never get past his first paragraph. So I think let's ask the questions as he presents the case, because if we keep doing this, we does not get anything.
So I hope this will be the last time I ever will be such a scene. The people were all gathered at one place. They were all praying, crying, and begging for help. I think they were watching such a pitiful spectacle. Soon the heavy machine guns opened fire and spread over people screaming and going. into the ground when I could not have taken, even if I had the heart of a monster. Also, the wake of 19, a former Japanese soldier said in an interview. At first, we used to say some huge words like Pikankan, P means hip, Kankan means look, Pikankan means let's see a woman open up her legs. Chinese women didn't wear underpants. Instead, they wore trousers.
Excuse me, could you please rephrase? I know you're citing direct quotes, but could you next time at least say something or try to rephrase it in a better way? Or
Also, could just speak a little louder so the other people hear you.
Okay, as what Michael said, I'll try to find things. So what happened was, they would pull the trousers off
What point are you trying to make though?
what the point I'm trying to make is that Hirohito was in charge of all this and he would have had knowledge of all this rape and murder.
so you're using these quotes as a proof that there was evidence of rape and sexual assault in Japanese controlled areas.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you like prove that he had knowledge of it? Do you have any evidence that proves that he had knowledge of what was going on?
Okay, I'll try to.
Keep in mind, we're halfway there and I've only heard a very small portion from Ellis and everything else from Abdul. So just be aware of that. Can you bring other people in for their grade sake?
So I'm going to skip some of the, I think I'm going to skip some of the graphics where so it will be all right if we only rate them. I shouldn't say all right because we stabbed and killed them because that bodies.
Who stated this?
This was stated by a former Japanese soldier. So this is a first person. This is first.
Sorry, I'll stop asking questions then. See you guys. Sorry.
There were many other atrocities, such as the Felix One massacre, where Japanese soldiers stabbed the machine guns, Australian and Indian soldiers, then lit their bodies aflame with petrol. The Bataan Death March, where Filipino American prisoners of war marched up to 70 miles, with up to 1,800 soldiers, 50,000 soldiers murdered, and the Sami County prisoner of war, the Japanese equivalent to Auschwitz. During the war, yeah, I think you should do this first.
During the war, there were many hospital ships with a Red Cross. In 1907, Japan signed the Hague Convention, stated that shooting down a hospital ship was a war crime. There are many ships, such as the USS Comfort, USS Relief, HMS Centaur, and HMS Manda that were shot down or blown up by the Japanese Air Force and Navy. The fact that Japan violated the law they agreed to showed that this is a war crime.
So to our second point, he committed cruel and unusual experiments. And so beginning in 1937 with Unit 731, it was located in China. And it was a place where Japanese soldiers would experiment on prisoners they captured. What's the word experiments? What's the word experiments?
Very to the point.
So, such as, sorry, this will be graphic, cutting limbs, removing organs, low pressure chambers until eyes pop out, spun to death.
Do you have proof that this was Hirohito's doing or another part of Japan doing this? Because
In 1936, Hirohito called for the expansion of Unit 731.
And so, also, at least 200,000 people were massacred in the rape of Nanking, and almost 80,000 of those people were executed.
Undeniable evidence that Hirohito himself orchestrated the rape of Nanking or wanted it to be nearly as horrendous as it was. There's no doubt that Japan as a country wanted more of the land of China. There's no doubt about that. But was there any proof that Hirohito himself, the one on trial, wanted to kill as many people as?
Well, I mean, he was probably trying to take over land, and when people got in his way, he would just kill them.
So, about your question, the the Japanese people, especially the government, they view other races such as the Chinese and Korean as inferior, just like how Hitler viewed the Aryans and Jews as inferior. And so they wanted to conquer as much land and try to populate it.
But that's not the issue.
Hirohito was the supreme commander of the army and navy. He was at least informed about this. If he did not like it, he could have just shut it all down.
Okay, okay. To clarify, your argument mostly bases off of the fact that even if he did not directly order it, he was still head of the army and therefore would be knowledgeable of it.
There are many officers that advised him.
Do you have proof that he's knowledgeable of it? Well, he was knowledgeable of Unit 731 at least. We have a source.
But he wasn't told of what happened inside Unit 731.
Well, if he had known that they were committing experiments, then he probably would have known that they were cruel and
But he didn't know that what the experiments were. He just needed to.
I mean, he didn't have to know exactly what they were. He still knew that they were cruel and
Hirohito knew that they were testing biological and chemical weapons, and which was a big part of even though Germany and Britain signed a contract that they would not use biological weapons and chemical weapons unless the other one uses first. Also,
1 minute.
Our last one. Alright, so what you were saying about was Hirohito knows about maintaining. In Victor's 2001 biography of Hirohito, he wrote that while the 19 Mexico was unplanned, Hirohito knew and approved annihilation campaigns in China that included burning villages that fought the harbor guerrillas. Guerrillas as in guerrilla warfare.
Also, he encouraged the spread of diseases into China and with connecting to build off of the biological warfare.
So are you saying that all these they're 100% over the top with I forget what it's called standards of war how in the Hitler trial we were talking about how some of the things he did were justifiable because he's in war.
That is time.
Okay, I was just Wednesday.
No, that is your time. I apologize. Let's take 1 minute talk with your table partner. What'd you learn from that? Ready?
He didn't do anything to stop it, but also at the same time,
So would you let us know on one military
so, defense, please come to the floor audience.
May it please the court. My name is Leah Norman, and along with my partners Tabitha Faye and Bunny and Alicia Farley, we are here today representing Emperor Hirohito, the defendant in this case. Your Honors, Emperor Hirohito is not guilty of crimes against humanity for 3 reasons. First, outside influences caused Japan to take action to do what was best for the country. Secondly, the attack on Pearl Harbor and the massacre of Nanking were not Hirohito's ideas. And third, Hirohito did not contradict the laws of war. To our first point, there were several outside events that caused Japan to need to expand and gain resources. So in 1853, which I'm aware is a while before the war, the U.S. forced Japan to open up to the outside world. The Japanese had self-isolated and had shut off their borders a little bit to trade and that kind of thing. So they had just kind of self-isolated. And then, so Matthew Perry was the one who led the military ships to Japan to force Japan to open up. And so while Japan then became industrialized, it did change the course of history. Japan originally also had an alliance with Britain, and this is when Germany and the European Union was beginning in World War II. So they had an alliance with Britain. Yes.
If they had an alliance with Britain but still joined in opposite force, would that not be a violation of crimes against peace?
I'm gonna get to that in just a second. So they did gain land from Britain, but then in 1918, the British, US, and other countries pushed them back out of the territory that they had given them. So that's why Japan decided to join with the Axis powers, because Britain had broken the alliance.
So what do you mean by push out territory?
The land was originally Britain and some of the others, and they pushed them back out saying hey, this is mine again now. And so then they broke the alliance, therefore leading them to join the Axis powers.
Jackson, what qualifies as breaking the alliance? Just for clarification.
The alliance was that they were working together and Britain gave them land, so that was part of the alliance. But then they ended up breaking it by taking the land back, and that was home to multiple people, lots of people, and they took it all back. So that led a lot of problems to happen.
Okay, and then also in 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake hit Tokyo, and it destroyed many buildings and resources. It also killed over 100,000 people. And then after the earthquake, the remains were raided by other people, and so this led to many hungry and homeless. Yes.
Does an earthquake and people becoming homeless justify invading and killing people? Do they not ever
Japan was trying to do what was best for their country, and so they needed to expand and gain more resources so that their people would not starve.
Did they not have any allies at the time?
No, that's because Britain had also pushed them out of land. That's why they gave them the Axis powers. They were also trying to expand because Hitler thought he was doing what was best for them.
The U.S. gave Japanese 333 million yen because of the earthquake for aid. So they got aid in the earthquake. They weren't completely on their own.
But that's still probably going to be
The earthquake still caused the economic collapse.
So it's kind of hard to rebound with that. Even if you have a lot of money, you still would need a lot more than just money. Michael?
So you are using the economic recession to justify mass invasion?
I'm not saying it justified. We're not saying it justified. It just gives a reason.
So when you give the example of the earthquake in the Western countries forcing Japan to open up the trade, are you using that? Why are you bringing it up if it's not being used to provide a reasoning for their crimes?
It's just saying that Japan needed to expand. They needed those resources to keep their country from collapsing even more.
Okay, which leads us to our second point. Hirohito was not responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor or the massacre of Nanking. Emperor Hirohito was reluctant to start the war in China in 1972.
Even if Hirohito wasn't if the massacre of Nanking and the bombing of Pearl Harbor wasn't his idea, he was still the emperor and he knew about it and he didn't stop it, right?
So I have a point to back that up. So at the time, Japanese culture suggested that the emperor was divine and should not be in charge of military strategy. Although Hirohito had complete authority of Japan, he was taught ever since he was a young boy that the emperor stayed out of politics. He was to follow the advice of his advisors. During Hirohito's reign, many of his advisors had strong military views. Did you have a question, Rosie?
Yeah. So, isn't Fury was the person that had the idea to attack Pearl Harbor, but Hirohito approved it, so he's still just as guilty as Hirohito.
I think that, like Tabitha said, he was taught to just kind of go with the flow and approve so that he could do as best he can, I guess. If he didn't, he could probably get bad things would happen to him because it's really his military advisors that tell him what to do, and he just tells because the people who actually live there just thought that it was on Hirohito mostly, so they would listen to him more. So, Jackson.
I have a source that says that the day that of the bombing at Pearl Harbor, Hirohito was briefed over the whole of exactly what they were going to do, and that and he himself did say that he was all go ahead for dropping for going to Pearl Harbor. Does that still make him not?
Well, during the Allied war of clan trials, Tojo was executed for the attacks, and Hirohito was not nearly as involved on the attack of Pearl Harbor as Yamato or the Prime Minister. So, Connor.
I apologize if this was earlier in the brief, but I'm asking a question. Even if UK broke the alliance before World War One, does that justify capturing over 190,000 British soldiers, killing more than 20,000, wounding over 50,000?
It doesn't justify it. Like most things in war doesn't really justify anything. But they did need the land. I'm sure that is a little over the top, but as we know, that does happen a lot in the war. Which I'm not saying that makes it be okay. I'm saying like there's not really many other options. If you want to gain land, you have to be like a scarier, bigger person.
Also, during the Allied war trials, Hirohito was not executed and tried because U.S. feared that it would cause an uprising in Japan. The Red Range forces in the West. That's the only reason he wasn't
That and also he wasn't as involved. Yes, if he did it, it would be really bad for Japan because they wouldn't have the emperor in backup for when he would die, so it would cause some bad things to happen. And I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the uprising biggest deal, but just like what would happen to Japan? Would there be another economic collapse if people like grave places what would happen?
Also,
2/3.
That's what the U.S. says. It's also not fair that the trial was held in the U.S. Was it?
No. The Tokyo trials, I think, were held in Tokyo, but still, I don't see how the location matters. The justices were all from a variety of countries, right?
The winning side writes history. That we've been trained to live on history from a certain view because of the winning side.
I believe you might be making before monster U.S. trials. That was about in Germany, the U.S. Japanese.
Now, our third question. All right, we've just been talking about how Japan may have done something wrong, but it's not the only country that had to expand for its citizens. The British, during the war, the British Empire and Commonwealth still comprised 25% of the world's population and still governed 30% of the land that it had at its peak. It had expanded for the good of its citizens. But was Japan so bad to these similarities?
was it like to expand, was it really necessary to conduct experiments on the people? And like, in their like case, they talked about how like they ripped off limbs and put like blood pressure chambers so their eyes popped out, so like was that necessary? And
I wonder what these. I don't really know what to say to that, but it's never really a right if you take over land to torture people. But as we know, like in history, it happened with that as well. during the Holocaust. And the U.S. also took into
Yeah, you know,
how
they had cancer death.
and so it's really part of all sides. When you take over land, there's always some sort of torture and mass killing.
Well, first of all, with the Hirohito, he still said on Pearl Harbor, although he might not have known that he was still briefed on it, which shows that he at least still knew about the events. Why is it that if Hirohito is not guilty, he still ordered the extension of Unit 731, which was the place where they conducted the extremely deadly and torturous experiments on captured civilians?
Is those orders didn't exactly directly come from Hirohito because he might have set the orders, but he probably might not have made them. He just told them. Is that time?
That is time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, all rise. You may be seated. All right, so I would encourage both groups to say good job to each other. Angie, can I have you facilitate the conversation in here while I check on them? Is Hirohito guilty of crimes against humanity? Okay, Angie, you'll run it.
Okay, so, well, I don't really start off. I want to hear if someone else has like is saying towards one side a lot more than the other. Well, I think that he is a lot of stuff. I mean, not guilty. I mean, because I think he's not guilty because a lot of things that happened they didn't come directly from him. Like they said, he was kind of taught that he was made military decisions and things like that. And so his advisors kind of did everything. And all he could do was be like, sure. He didn't really get to say no either. So basically for him, it was either say yes or don't answer anymore. And so yeah, he could have stopped him, but I don't know if that makes him guilty.
So something that I was like listening to, was something that the prosecution said. They said that Hirohito had to have known about all of the things that the army were gonna do and all of those things. So all of that.
Well, he was aware of them and he knew that they were happening, but he couldn't really just stop them. Jackie was the emperor and he could do all kinds of stuff. But when I say he didn't have the jurisdiction, that means that like he couldn't really make those decisions because like it's kind of like if someone in the Supreme Court was trying to make a decision. Because they do kind of have that jurisdiction, but they can't just do it on their own. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, if you're very come from, like, you can't, like, decide everything, but still, if you really care that much, like, to not, like, do it, then you should take a stand and, like, stop whatever it is.
Yeah, what I was thinking was that even like would say no cost him his place of emperor, because if he's supposed to be protecting his homeland and he's trying to expand really with killing other people, I don't think, like, I think he has the right to say no, and if he could stop it, he should have stopped it. So I think
Yeah, as they said, we couldn't really stop it because the ambassador had said, we're doing this. We don't really have that much power. You do, like, you don't,
yeah,
but you have to.
he doesn't really have to. Otherwise, he really.
Well, there's a lot of sources that aren't listed in this, and it's like a lot of ifs and buts, like don't really get sorted out.
And also, what's the point of being an emperor if you can't even make decisions?
Yeah.
People have made decisions that's
It's just kind of like a flash battle.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like. Yeah, but you don't really get to make that many decisions.
When are we supposed to do this?
Engaging in conversation.
Just following building off of what's happening.
I noticed that when the prosecution was going, when they were getting asked questions, they they were getting asked proof. They sometimes didn't have proof, and it was kind of hard to believe some things that they were saying if you didn't have proof that you were citing.
So well, let me ask you guys a question. So I was kind of trying to break it down into a couple of questions that I feel like would kind of determine the case for me. So I jotted down these 3 questions. If you guys agree, disagree, or would add any questions to. So number 1, no, that's not the right questions. Anyways, all right, here, it's fine. So first question is, were crimes against humanity committed? So I think that's the first question. If we feel like yes, they were, then we need to move on to the next question. If you feel like no, they were not, then that kind of answers already is Hirohito guilty. Next question is, did Hirohito have knowledge of these actions? If he did, then we need to move on to the next question. If he didn't have knowledge of them, then maybe that kind of renders your decision already. What were his intentions with these actions? And then therefore at the end, is he responsible for these actions? Would you guys add a question or change that at all or anything? Alicia?
Knowledge and power is it?
What's that?
I for the same question.
Say-
Knowledge or power over that?
Stand up on that. So you'd add in the idea of did he have power over
Well, I
it?
guess that has in perspective.
Yeah, pull something in. And you guys can start to answer those questions too if you think, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm trying to be skeptic here, but I feel like he definitely knew the first 3. Like, crimes against humanity were committed, and he had knowledge of them. But for the 3rd one, I don't know if we can necessarily say he committed crimes against humanity, because he didn't really have the power to stop it, I guess. I mean, he did, but really he didn't, if that makes sense. Because he did something that was wrong, and he could have stopped it. But I'm just not sure that makes him guilty of crimes against humanity.
But you said the first 2 things were crimes against humanity, so then what, does that mean that it justifies how like the third one isn't? Does that make it better?
Sorry, can you explain what you mean real quick? I don't know.
So,
if
it
I
was
follow.
said, didn't you say like the first 2 things they were crimes against humanity?
Well, like, crimes against humanity were committed, and he knew of what was going on.
Yeah, so then why does it matter that he did it in the first?
Because he might not have had full control over it, like his power was just kind of flashy, like on paper, he might have had the power to stop it, but like, did he actually have power over these like generals, soldiers, and like political armed groups?
I just wanted to throw in a quick comment, like, it was the culture that, like, he was just wanting to stay out of these things, so it's not, like, it was, like, not something the emperor could change until he is the emperor. It was just part of the culture back then, and it hasn't been changed from how it is now.
Is that like excused if like bullying is happening in a school and the culture is like to let bullying happen? Then are you not responsible because you're like, well, nobody else did anything, so I shouldn't, even though like if I'm the teacher, like can I just say everybody bullies, I'm not gonna worry about it? Is that okay? Does that question make sense?
Kind of, it's like, it was the culture, but I'm pretty sure, like, if he had, like, disagreed with a lot of things, he, like, told his advisors that they were wrong, even though they're supposed to be, like, telling him what to do. It could cost him a lot of things, like, maybe he could have title, but it could cost him his life.
So like, I guess if you're like an employee, you might want to like think about your decision and think like, do I want to like help these places or do I want to save my own life? And a lot of people choose their own life.
With your analogy, I'm just gonna add on to it, because if all the students did it and it was just the culture in the school to bully, yeah, that means everyone's kind of responsible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like everyone should get suspended. Because yeah, Hirohito was responsible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he committed crimes against humanity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. As the emperor, though, does he not assume more responsibility than the average citizen? Like I said, so if I'm the teacher in a classroom, do I assume more responsibility than Luke for bullying happening in the classroom? Or do I just say, it happens, kids, let boys be boys, and is that okay? I feel like it's just like three people talking. Does everybody, are you guys following along with the points you're making? Take 30 seconds, talk with your table partner for a second. What do you think? Ready?
They're not but he didn't think they had those changes, they just like more than they default the game, they're like, well, I can tell you more nights. All you do is tell me, you didn't say that. I said, hey, I want this, you want this, you didn't like, sure, that's all my thing. I'm sure I have to pay some money. Also, I never could talk about Matsu guy later. Really good thing. We're talking about like unimportant stuff and actually let's talk about that.
All rise.
In a vote of 5-2, the justice find Hirohito to be guilty.
Now we got, they made it down. So you said not guilty.
No, guilty.
Sorry, you said guilty. My fault. Oh, okay. Sorry, first period said not guilty. You guys said guilty. So it's interesting. What were kind of some of the major factors that it came down to for you guys?
I think one of them was just the fact that because Hirohito was the emperor, a lot of us just still thought that he still had power otherwise.
Based on outside sources, it was also shown that Hirohito had complete control over both the sovereign state and the imperial forces. Even though it was divine right, that doesn't matter because he still had control over all of the imperial forces.
You're fine. So is Tojo more at fault than Emperor Hirohito, or no? You're saying yes. So was the Prime Minister Hideki Tojo, was he more responsible than Emperor Hirohito? You know?
Yes, because Hideki Tojo ordered war. He was the main guy who ordered the most of the things that Japan did, like Pearl Harbor and the invasion of China and that stuff. And then, like, right after he did it, when he was about to do it, he just told Hirohito he was going to do it. So those are some of the things that.
I've never objected to some of the things, like Pearl Harbor, Hirohito never objected. Invasion of Manchuria.
So silence makes you complicit.
Well, if he doesn't object and he has the power to object, then yes, it does make him complicit. Because
And if you can object to something and you think something is like tyrannical or bad, by all means object to it, because like if you have that power, you're supposed to use that power if you think that something should be objected to.
Here, Winnie, final comment?
Well, you also have to remember that we're putting Hirohito on trial and not Japan and not like the Prime Minister on trial. And I agree with what Connor was saying. Like, now he wasn't necessarily as guilty as the Prime Minister, but he knew about all of this. He's most likely, I think, he consented to all of this, and he didn't say anything to try and stop it. And also, the earthquake thing they were talking about was like a long time before World War II. So.
Yeah, it was it was like a long time before.
It was still like at least a decade before.
Right, so then it's also thinking about, is there ever a context that makes war okay or justifiable? That's an interesting thing. Or is everybody guilty? Anybody that performs in war is now guilty of war crimes. To be continued tomorrow at trial. True. All right, we'll discuss this stuff more on Thursday, by the way.
But then you're all like,
I need a random draw. Don't even. I need a random call. No, don't do it. Well, we got so much to do. Are you ready? Let's do this. Have a amazing day. So we're supposed to do both. Do the Pacific quiz tonight. It's 10 questions. It'll take you 3 minutes.
And then also do the other one.
Yes, please.